Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The sun dipped toward the vast expanse of the ocean, casting a warm glow on the horizon, where a colossal structure emerged. An industrial giant amidst the waves, the offshore oil rig stood, its intricate steel framework a testament to human ingenuity. As the day's light waned, a helicopter drew closer, carrying more than just the routine crew change, a group of filmmakers prepared to document the untold stories of those enduring the rig's isolation. Elisha, one of the rig's workers, anxiously awaited the helicopter's arrival, his heart racing within the confines of his work gear. His apprehension was understandable. He had meticulously hidden his true persona from his coworkers, and the filmmaker's presence jeopardized the secrecy he had so diligently maintained. As the helicopter landed, Elisha's hands betrayed his calm demeanor, becoming sweaty. He swiftly wiped them on his coveralls as the filmmakers disembarked with their gear. Then, the director strode forward, cutting a commanding figure. "We'll be shadowing you for the next few weeks to show the world what life's really like out here." Elisha nodded along with his coworkers, but his mind raced. How could he maintain his disguise under the constant scrutiny of cameras? The thought of being outed in such a public manner made his stomach churn. Over the next few days, Elisha did his best to avoid the film crew, volunteering for the most isolated tasks and keeping his head down during meals. But he couldn't escape the growing sense of unease that permeated every moment. It all came to a head one evening in the cramped quarters he shared with 3 other workers. The camera crew had been granted permission to film the living spaces, and Elisha found himself cornered. "So, Elisha," Cassandra began, her microphone thrust forward. "Tell us about your life on the rig. What's it like being away from family for so long?" Elisha's mouth went dry. He'd practiced his backstory countless times, but now, faced with the camera's unblinking eye, the words stuck in his throat.
"It's challenging,"
he managed to croak out.
"Any special someone waiting for you back on shore?"
Cassandra pressed, her eyes narrowing slightly at his discomfort. In that moment, Elisha knew he couldn't keep up the charade. The weight of his secret, carried for so long, suddenly felt unbearable. He took a deep breath, his auburn hair falling across his forehead as he looked down at his hands.
"Actually,"
he began, his voice barely above a whisper.
"There's something I need to say. To all of you."
The room fell silent, save for the soft whir of the camera. Elisha's roommates exchanged confused glances, while Cassandra leaned in, sensing a story unfolding before her.
"I've been living a lie,"
Elisha continued, his voice gaining strength.
"The person you all know as Elisha isn't the real me. My name is Juliana, and I'm a woman."
The silence that followed was deafening. Elisha, now Juliana, looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and relief. The camera captured every nuance of the moment. The shocked expressions of her roommates, the raised eyebrows of the film crew, and the subtle smile playing at the corners of Cassandra's mouth. "Well," Cassandra said after a beat, "I think we've just found the heart of our documentary." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. News of Juliana's revelation spread quickly through the rig, eliciting a range of reactions from her coworkers. Some were supportive, others confused, and a few openly hostile. The documentary crew, meanwhile, shifted their focus to capture this unexpected narrative. Juliana found herself at the center of attention, a position she'd spent years avoiding. But as she began to embrace her true identity openly, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. With Cassandra's encouragement, Juliana decided to fully present as herself for the first time on the rig. The morning after her revelation, she emerged from her quarters dressed in a cream blouse and charcoal pencil skirt, her auburn hair styled softly around her face. The mess hall fell silent as she entered, all eyes turning to take in her transformation. Juliana's heart raced, but she held her head high, her sensible pumps clicking against the metal floor as she made her way to the coffee station. "Looking good, Jules!" called out Marco, one of the younger riggers who'd been quick to show his support. His words seemed to break the tension, and gradually, conversation resumed around the room. Cassandra's camera crew captured it all, the lingering stares, the whispered comments, and the moment Juliana's supervisor approached her with a look of concern.
"Juliana,"
he began, his voice low.
"I respect your decision, but I need to know if this is going to affect your ability to do your job."
Juliana met his gaze steadily. "Sir, I've been doing this job effectively for years. The only difference now is that I'm finally able to be myself while doing it." The supervisor nodded slowly, a hint of admiration creeping into his expression. "Fair enough. Carry on then." As the days passed, Juliana's story became the focal point of the documentary. The crew followed her through her daily routines, capturing the challenges and triumphs of navigating her professional life as her authentic self. There were difficult moments, to be sure. Some coworkers struggled to use her correct name and pronouns, while others made thinly veiled comments about her appearance or questioned her abilities. But for every setback, there were moments of unexpected kindness and solidarity. One afternoon, as Juliana was performing a routine equipment check, she overheard a heated conversation around the corner. Peeking around, she saw Marco confronting one of the older workers who had been particularly vocal in his disapproval.
"Listen, old man,"
Marco was saying, his voice low but intense.
"Juliana is one of the best damn workers on this rig. You don't have to understand her, but you damn well better respect her."
Juliana felt a lump form in her throat, touched by the young man's defense. She cleared her throat, making her presence known. Both men turned, surprised to see her.
"Everything all right here?"
she asked, her voice steady despite the emotion she felt. Marco nodded, shooting a final glare at the older worker before walking away. The other man looked at Juliana for a long moment, then shook his head and mumbled something under his breath before shuffling off. Cassandra, who had witnessed the exchange from afar, approached Juliana with her ever-present camera crew in tow. "How does it feel?" she asked.
"To see your colleagues standing up for you like that."
Juliana considered the question, a small smile playing at her lips. "It feels validating," she replied. "I've spent so long hiding who I am, afraid of how people would react. To see someone like Marco, who I barely know, defending me so fiercely, it gives me hope." As the weeks went by, Juliana found herself growing more comfortable in her skin. She took pride in her appearance, her cream blouses and charcoal skirts becoming a familiar sight around the rig. Her auburn hair, once kept short and nondescript, now framed her face in soft waves. The documentary crew captured it all. The quiet moments of reflection as Juliana applied her makeup in the morning, the determined set of her jaw as she tackled challenging tasks in her heels, the growing ease with which she interacted with her coworkers. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Cassandra found Juliana standing alone on the observation deck.
"Penny for your thoughts?"
the director asked, coming to stand beside her. Juliana turned, a wistful smile on her face. I was just thinking about how different everything is now. A month ago, I was terrified of anyone discovering my secret. Now I feel like I can breathe for the first time in years. Cassandra nodded, her eyes scanning the vast expanse of ocean before them. You know, when we came out here, I thought we'd be making a straightforward film about life on an oil rig. But your story, it's so much more powerful. You're changing perceptions, Juliana, not just here, but potentially for people all over the world who will see this film. Juliana felt a swell of emotion at the director's words. I never set out to be an inspiration or a role model, she said softly. I just wanted to be myself. Sometimes, Cassandra replied. That's the most revolutionary act of all. As the documentary project neared its conclusion, the atmosphere on the rig had shifted noticeably. While there were still pockets of resistance, the majority of Juliana's coworkers had come to accept and even embrace her presence. The film crew captured a particularly poignant moment during a safety drill. Juliana, dressed in her usual professional attire, was paired with a co-worker who had initially been one of her harshest critics. As they worked together to secure equipment, their movements were smooth and coordinated, a far cry from the awkward tension that had characterized their early interactions.
You know,
the man said gruffly as they finished the drill.
I didn't get it at first. Thought you were just trying to cause trouble or get attention.
He paused, meeting Juliana's eyes. But I was wrong. You're still the same hard worker you always were. Just happier now, I guess. Juliana felt her throat tighten with emotion. Thank you, she managed to say. That means a lot coming from you. The camera caught the moment perfectly. Two colleagues, once at odds, now sharing a moment of mutual respect and understanding. As the final day of filming approached, Cassandra organized a screening of some of the rough footage for the rig workers. The mess hall was transformed into a makeshift theater, with a projector set up at one end and chairs arranged in rows. Juliana sat in the front row, her heart pounding as the lights dimmed and the film began to play. She watched herself on screen, marveling at the transformation that had taken place over the course of the documentary. There she was, in the early days, still presenting as Elisha, her discomfort palpable even through the lens. Then came the moment of her revelation, captured in all its raw, emotional intensity. The footage continued, showing her gradual evolution. The first day she stepped out in her cream blouse and charcoal skirt, the challenges she faced, the allies she found. As the screening came to an end, Juliana looked around the room, taking in the reactions of her coworkers. There were tears in some eyes, thoughtful expressions on many faces, and even a few sheepish looks from those who had initially been less than supportive. Cassandra stood up, addressing the gathered workers. What you've just seen is only a small part of the story we've captured here. Juliana's journey is remarkable, but what's equally powerful is how this community has evolved alongside her. You've shown that even in the most unlikely of places, acceptance and understanding can flourish. There was a moment of silence. Then someone started to clap. Soon, the entire room was filled with applause, with Juliana at the center of it all. As the noise died down, Juliana's supervisor stepped forward.
Juliana,
he began, his voice carrying across the now quiet room.
I want to thank you. Your courage has not only made you a better worker, but it's made all of us better people. You've shown us that diversity and authenticity make us stronger as a team.
Juliana felt tears pricking at her eyes as she stood to address her colleagues. I can't express how much your support has meant to me. she said, her voice wavering slightly. "When I came out here, I was scared and alone. Now, I feel like I have a family." The days that followed were bittersweet as the documentary crew prepared to leave. Juliana found herself reflecting on the incredible journey she'd undergone, from living in fear of discovery to becoming an unexpected symbol of progress in an industry not known for its inclusivity. On the final evening, as the helicopter waited to take the film crew back to the mainland, Cassandra pulled Juliana aside for one last interview.
"Looking back on this experience," the director asked, "what would you say to others who might be struggling with their identity in traditionally conservative workplaces?"
Juliana thought for a moment, her auburn hair catching the light of the setting sun. "I'd tell them that authenticity is worth the risk," she said finally. "It won't always be easy, and not everyone will understand right away. But living as your true self, it's liberating in a way I never could have imagined." As the helicopter lifted off, carrying the documentary team and their precious footage, Juliana stood on the helipad, watching it shrink into the distance. She smoothed down her cream blouse and adjusted her charcoal skirt, feeling a sense of pride and belonging that had once seemed impossible. The oil rig, once a place where she had hidden her true self, had become the stage for her transformation. And as she turned to head back to her duties, Juliana knew that her story, soon to be shared with the world, might just help others find the courage to be themselves, no matter where life had placed them. The following months saw a flurry of activity as Cassandra and her team worked tirelessly to edit and produce the documentary. Juliana received regular updates, each one filling her with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The thought of her story being shared with a wider audience was both thrilling and terrifying. Finally, the day of the premiere arrived. The documentary, titled "Breaking the Rig: A Journey of Identity in the Oil Industry," was set to debut at a prestigious film festival. Juliana, along with several of her coworkers, had been flown in for the event. Standing in her hotel room, Juliana smoothed down her outfit, a new cream blouse paired with her trusty charcoal pencil skirt. Her auburn hair was styled in elegant waves, framing her face softly. As she applied the finishing touches to her makeup, she caught her reflection in the mirror and paused, struck by how far she'd come. A knock at the door startled her from her reverie. It was Marco, looking dapper in a suit.
"Ready for your big night, movie star?"
he teased gently. Juliana laughed, grateful for his light-hearted approach. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, grabbing her clutch and following him out. The red carpet was a whirlwind of flashing cameras and shouted questions. Juliana, unused to such attention, clung to her co-workers for support. Cassandra, looking elegant in a sleek black dress, guided them through the gauntlet of reporters with practiced ease. Inside the theater, Juliana's nerves reached a fever pitch. As the lights dimmed and the film began to roll, she found herself holding her breath. The opening shots of the oil rig, stark against the ocean backdrop, filled the screen. And then, there she was, still presenting as Elisha, the discomfort in her eyes painfully apparent now that she knew what to look for. As the documentary unfolded, Juliana relived every moment of her journey, the gasps from the audience during her coming out scene, the murmurs of approval as her coworkers gradually came to accept her, the palpable tension during the more difficult moments. It was all almost too much to bear. But as the final scenes played out, showing Juliana confident and at peace with herself on the rig, she felt a profound sense of pride wash over her. The applause that erupted as the credits rolled was deafening. In the days that followed, Breaking the Rig became the talk of the festival. Critics praised its honest portrayal of gender identity issues in a traditionally masculine industry, and Juliana found herself thrust into the spotlight as the face of the film. Interviews and panel discussions became a regular part of her life. She spoke eloquently about her experiences, always emphasizing the importance of creating inclusive workplaces in all industries. "It's not just about allowing people to be themselves," she said during one particularly memorable television appearance. "It's about fostering an environment where everyone can thrive, regardless of their gender identity, sexual orientation, or background. When we do that, we all benefit." The documentary's success led to unexpected opportunities. Juliana was invited to speak at conferences and corporate events, sharing her story and advocating for greater diversity and inclusion in industrial settings. Her cream blouses and charcoal skirts became something of a trademark, a visual reminder of her journey from hiding to embracing her true self. Even as her public profile grew, Juliana remained committed to her work on the oil rig. She returned between speaking engagements, her presence a constant reminder of the progress that had been made. New workers arrived, having seen the documentary, and approached her with respect and admiration. One afternoon, as Juliana was performing a routine inspection, she noticed a young worker watching her nervously. After completing her task, she approached the newcomer with a gentle smile. "Everything all right?" she asked, noting the anxiety in the young person's eyes. The worker, barely out of their teens, looked around furtively before leaning in. I saw the film," they whispered. "Before I came here, I'm like you. But I'm scared to say anything." Juliana felt a surge of emotion, recognizing the fear and hope in the young worker's face. "What's your name?" she asked softly.
Riley,
came the quiet reply. "Well, Riley," Juliana said, placing a comforting hand on their shoulder. "Let me tell you something. This place might surprise you. It surprised me. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." The gratitude in Riley's eyes was unmistakable. As they parted ways, Juliana felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her journey wasn't just about her anymore. It was about paving the way for others to live authentically, even in the most unexpected places. As the years passed, Juliana's impact continued to ripple outward. The oil rig that had once been a place of secrecy and fear for her became known throughout the industry as a model of inclusivity. Other companies began to implement diversity training programs, inspired by the changes documented in Breaking the Rig. Juliana, now a respected veteran on the rig, never forgot the fear and isolation she had once felt. She made it her mission to mentor young workers, especially those struggling with their identity. Her office, with its door always open, became a safe haven for anyone needing advice or just a sympathetic ear. On the 5th anniversary of the documentary's release, Cassandra returned to the rig for a follow-up piece. As she interviewed Juliana, now confident and at ease in her cream blouse and charcoal skirt, the director couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. "Did you ever imagine, when we first arrived here, that your story would have such a far-reaching impact?" Cassandra asked. Juliana shook her head, a smile playing at her lips. "Never in my wildest dreams," she admitted. "I was just trying to survive, to be honest. But now—" She paused, looking out over the vast expanse of ocean. "Now I realize that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply be ourselves. unapologetically and authentically. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. As the interview concluded, Juliana's gaze fell on a group of workers chatting nearby. Among them was Riley, now confident and open about their identity, laughing easily with their colleagues. The sight filled Juliana with a sense of pride and hope for the future. She knew that there was still work to be done, battles to be fought for acceptance and equality. But standing there, her auburn hair catching the sea breeze, Juliana felt a profound sense of peace. She had found her place in the world, and in doing so, had helped create space for others to do the same. The oil rig, once a symbol of her confinement, had become a beacon of progress, and Juliana, no longer hiding in the shadows, stood tall as a living testament to the power of authenticity, her journey a reminder that change can come from the most unexpected places, even in the middle of the vast, unforgiving sea.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!